Welcome United. So we have a great episode for you today. I'm here from the Hallie Assembly Hall to give you a sneak preview of some of the highlights and the great things coming this episode. Enjoy.
My mantra is just to lead with love.
I don't know if it was unique to the Minnesota protests, but I agree with you. It was the first time that I heard protesters calling out to the humanity of the other side or the oppressor.
I felt like I was in a war zone because like the sounds going off, it's so loud and not something that you experience every day as a citizen here in America. That was really terrifying.
When I saw your post on your story, I was like, oh my God, this is someone I really trust. And she's telling me it's as bad as I think it is.
Mm-hmm. I knew there were going to be people who didn't agree with what I was saying or thought that I should just shut up and play volleyball. And I wanted to prove that both are possible. You can be an advocate for human rights and also be a really good volleyball player.
For young listeners that are out there, what would you tell them to recover and stop making those moments feel so big?
I've actually worked really hard to hone this skill of when my emotions do feel really big and I am emotionally charged, how can I still stay dialed in and focused on the moment so it doesn't get too big? That is a skill that I've worked on throughout my career.
What I hear you telling us is I experience the bigness and the overwhelmingness of the moment just as much as anybody else. And I've had to learn how to cope with that.
We should name the podcast that. Lead with Love, Jordan Thompson.
Hello, United fam. Today we are joined by one of the best volleyball players in the world, but that is only part of this story. Jordan Thompson is an Olympian, a professional athlete competing with LOVB Houston, and is one of the most dominant scorers in international volleyball. But beyond the medals, the matches, the highlights, Jordan has consistently used her platform to advocate for issues that matter, particularly in her home state of Minnesota. In the moments when so many athletes are told to stick to their sport, Jordan has chosen to engage thoughtfully, courageously, and intentionally. From showing up in her community to navigating the emotional weight of advocacy while still competing at the highest level, her story is about far more than performance. So today, with my co-host, Jess Wolf, we, three Minnesotans, are diving into the intersection of elite athletics and advocacy, what it means to use your voice, and how to manage life and emotion at the highest level of sport. Jordan, we are so grateful you are here. Welcome to the United Podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, this is excellent. So for listeners that don't know, most people don't know, I'm from Mankato, Minnesota. Jess is from Waconia, Minnesota. And Jordan, Edina, Minnesota. Very nice.
Minneapolis, but somewhere it said Edina because I went there for high school. So just to clarify. But
yes.
Everybody says Edina, which it's cool. It's just kind of embarrassing.
It's okay. That's on your Wikipedia page, so I will go in and change that.
Yeah, someone change that. No.
I got it. We have a Kurt Signetti inspired promo here with Big Team where he has the famous quote of "I win, Google me." So Jordan, in the spirit of IU winning a national football title, what would we find if we Googled you?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Hey, if you Googled me, you would find that I'm a 2-time Olympic medalist, a gold and silver. I hold a record. I think it's a record for 50 kills in a match in the rally scoring era or the non-rally, whatever era we're in now for volleyball. That one. And I hope that maybe you would see this somewhere if you Google me, but I love horses and I'm a horse girl. And so hopefully that's in there somewhere. I'm not sure. And then what else? I went to Cincinnati for college, loved it, had an amazing time. And I started national team while I was technically still in school. So I feel like that was kind of a cool little, I don't know, thing about me.
That's amazing. I did not know that you were a horse girl. How did that happen? I know it's not on the questions, but what?
I don't know. Ever since I was young, there's actually a picture of me. My brother had a birthday party and he had a petting zoo. And so they had this little pony and there's just little me on top of the pony. And so I don't know if that's where it started, but ever since I loved horses. I went to horse camp when I was younger. I worked as a horse camp counselor one summer in high school and have always loved the animals. I feel like they're so cool and majestic and powerful, but gentle. And so anyways, I was the weird horse girl.
Oh, I love that. I totally get that. I worked with kids who were like were ordered to residential treatment, and we would do horse therapy with them. And it was like so impactful how these creatures would like change these kids. I remember one kid being like, when I'm with the horse, I'm not all these bad things that people like say about me. So horse is not weird, very healing, very cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, but I'm pretty sure we had previous teammates when we played together back in the day, way back in the day, that were really scared of horses, and you were like trying to like, I don't know, advocate for horses and like get them to ride. And I don't know, am I wrong? I feel like I remember that.
I have a terrible memory, so that could definitely be a true statement. My memory
I
is
feel like
awful.
someone was just super afraid of horses and they were like, I would never get on a creature like that ever because if I fall off, it's just going to kick me in the back. And you were like, no, it's
Yeah.
not. Like horses are cool.
That's so good. Oh my gosh, we were just talking before this. Like, I didn't realize that you were ever on a twos team. I had no idea.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Started from the bottom. I like being on a twos team. I like the feeling of being an underdog, and I feel like it's a really freeing place to play from. I guess in my head, I felt like, oh, well, nobody's going to expect, no one has these like really high expectations for me. So like whatever I accomplish, I can be proud of. And I think I remember when I tried out for Northern Lights my first year, everyone's like, you're going to make the ones team. You're going to make the ones team. And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know how any of this works. And I made the twos team, and I was just happy to be there. And I just remember feeling like, well, nobody's going to expect like all of these grand things from me. Like I can just put my head down, go to work and play my game and be proud of whatever I accomplish.
That's amazing. I feel like I still see that vibe from you and how you approach how you play today. So that's an incredible backstory to hear.
How have you managed that now that you've moved into the line life? Like you're at the top now. So started from the bottom, now at the top. How are you kind of handling that or switch that mindset?
Now it's weird because I think I still carry that like underdog mentality in me, in the sense of like I'm never satisfied. Like I always want to keep working and see like, okay, how good can I get? How far can I push myself? Just not wanting to be complacent when I feel some pressure to perform at a certain level, because it's like, oh, well, you've done these things or you've been to these places and played at these high levels. When that starts to feel more like pressure than like something different, then I fall back and be like, oh, well, I earned the right to be in those spaces, and I was a part of teams that accomplished historic feats, and I use that more as a way to draw confidence from. And like something that I'll tell myself when I'm really struggling on the court is like, I have greatness inside of me. And even when it doesn't feel like it, or when I've just hit into the block 3 times in a row, I know that I can trust my training and trust my experience and what I've done before. And I know that I've hit certain shots a million times over. So like, it doesn't matter. I mean, like this last match, I got blocked 5 times in the game, and that's pretty unusual for that to happen for me. And I just remember I would get really frustrated after. And then the next time, like, you know what, like, screw that. Like, I'm going to go up and take a big rip this next swing. I'm not going to let that make me small. I can trust my training. I can trust the things that I've done in the past. And I think going into that headspace helps me to stay big in those moments, instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, there's like so much pressure because people are going to expect me to like get a kill right away or do this or do that. And so I think sometimes I use it just like as a mindset shift.
That reminds me, Viola Davis just had this amazing speech, and the quote that she had that's really resonating with me is, your crown is bought and paid for. All you have to do is wear it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like very much the sentiment that you're communicating is like, all of this stuff that I've been stacking is behind me, and I'm standing on that still, even if I get blocked another time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really powerful message, and fully comes through with how consistently you attack I'm curious, what is something that Google wouldn't capture about who you are? I know we've already had the beautiful horse girl sentiment, but what else is out there that we wouldn't see?
Um, I think I've come to realize and grow as a person of like recognizing how I am a creative being and what that looks like in my life. And I think that's something that, especially as an athlete, if you were to Google an athlete or research something about us as athletes, like you're going to see more of the athletic accomplishments and what we've done on the court and how many awards we've won and blah, blah, blah. But I think, it sometimes misses the human aspect of things. And so I think for me, it's just being somebody who likes to be creative. And for me, that looks like creating a home for myself and like being able to show my personality through my space. And I love thrifting and vintage shopping and going to antique stores and finding unique pieces to like curate a home and a space that is a reflection of myself. And I feel like I'm able to do that also through fashion and just different like avenues and ways to express myself and who I am as a person off the court. And I think that's probably something that isn't shown if you just were to Google me.
Yeah, I feel like that's the space I've seen you like lean into with like the pre-match walk-in. I think you've got these glasses that I'm like obsessed with right now.
Yeah.
I love that we're getting to see that side of you in your social media too.
Yeah, it's
Because I'm
fun.
like, do I need these glasses
Yes.
too? Like, or I need glasses in general because I can't see, but that's neither here nor there.
I was gonna say you have some like stellar pants for tall girls, and I think I could speak for Hallie on this too, but like we appreciate that. Like I sometimes check on your stories and I'm like, oh, thank God, another pair of pants that I know will fit me because Jordan is
Yes.
just wearing them this week. Thank you. Like thank you from all the tall girls in the world. Wanted to ask you like what brought you home during the ICE takeover occupation?
Yeah. Well, our coach had let us know like a couple weeks before that we were going to be having 2 days off. And so I knew I was planning on going home for those 2 days anyways. And then it just so happened that ICE kind of just took over the city and they were, murdering citizens and harming people. And I just was like, I have to use my voice. And I remember like I got home and I immediately told my sister and my stepmom, I want to go to a protest when I'm home. Like that is a priority for me. I want to use my voice. I want to speak up for those who are afraid right now and who are being mistreated. And I loved my stepmom's response because she's this, middle-aged, small, petite white lady who grew up in Iowa. And she was like, I have been dying to go to a protest. She's like, I saw one the other day when I was driving and I wanted to stop, but I was a little bit nervous about going alone. And she's like, so I am right there with you. Like, let's go. And my little sister, was down for the cause too. And I think for her, it was going to a protest was definitely something new. And I don't know that any of us, like I had been to Black Lives Matter protests and I think we had been seeing stuff on the news about what was happening at protests in Minnesota with the ICE occupation and everything. But when we went, like, I felt like this sense of like, okay, I have to protect my family. Like if there's any, sign of danger or things are escalating, like obviously I'm going to take my family and we're going to get to safety. And it was just the most like moving protest, I think, for me, because at one point there was an attorney and he started speaking and he was just pleading with the officers, like, it's not too late to do the right thing. Like there's still time. You don't have to mistreat entire communities and terrorize an entire city, an entire state. And I think that approach of really like, of course, there's so much anger and fear and disgust with what's going on. But at the same time, like he spoke to them as humans and I think tried to relate on that human level. And that was really powerful for me to see. And then on the flip side, to see all of a sudden, out of nowhere, without any warning, all of these agents start storming us and throwing flashbangs and pointing guns. It was just so bizarre. And I remember feeling like I felt like I was in a war zone, because like the sounds going off, it's so loud, and just obviously not something that you experience every day as a citizen here in America.
It's okay, we're okay, we're okay. We're okay! Come on, hold on to me. I got you, I got you. Go back! Jennifer! Okay, it's okay, we're okay, we're okay. We're okay!
That was really terrifying, but I think it also really ignited a fire in me to continue to use my voice. And even though I knew I couldn't be on the ground in Minnesota like I wanted to, protesting every day, like I could still use the platform that I have to spread the message of what I think is important and to amplify voices. And so I think that experience really fueled me in that way.
I'm so glad to hear you talk about, I don't know if it was unique to the Minnesota protests, but I agree with you. It was the first time that I heard protesters calling out to the humanity of the other side, or maybe like the oppressor.
Mm-hmm.
And where I know that that's hard to do, like that is something a part of like my political affiliation that I believe is so important, is this call out to our collective humanity. And when this dichotomous aspect of politics separates us, like there's so much horror that comes from that. So I agree with you. I don't know if it was the lawyer from your clip specifically, or if it was the singing in downtown Minneapolis, where it was like, you can change, like you can choose our side still. Mm-hmm. I think that is such an important message. And then on the flip side of just the shock and the horror of what you experienced in the next moment, like you're watching like your protest be peaceful and then it turn violent. Like, as you reflect on that now, what stands out to you emotionally from that experience now that so much time has passed?
I think what made me the most sad was that I knew that that experience, like as terrifying as it was for me, that was like scratching the surface of what people were experiencing on a daily basis. Like, okay, you know, there was flashbangs thrown, people are running at you with guns, they're yelling at you, but you don't know what they're saying. Like it's like, that was so terrifying. But there are people who are literally being hunted, or officers are hitting their cars into innocent drivers, and people are, going to work, and there are like ICE agents coming into their places of work and dragging them out, even though they're U.S. citizens. They're being kidnapped and then tossed on the side of the road when they realize that they really are citizens. And other people are being kidnapped, sent to detention centers in different states. And I'm just like, I can't imagine, like, that experience was traumatizing for me. And that's not even the worst of it, not even close to the worst of it. And that, I think, is really devastating. And I just remember feeling so like emotionally altered, and like my brain and thoughts were like just altered after that, because I'm just like, holy crap, like, obviously you see the stuff on the news, and I think so many people look at the news and think like, oh, well, that, you're seeing the worst of the worst. And it's like, actually, that's not even true, because what's happening on a daily basis is worse than what they're showing on the news. And I think when you're not there to experience it for yourself, or to hear the firsthand accounts from people, or, I've talked with my little sister about her friends, and they're carrying their papers and they're U.S. citizens. Like, when you start to hear that stuff and you have more of that like close connection to it, I think becomes more real. And so I think it was just that experience really changed me, because obviously I knew about things that were happening, but I'm like, yeah, I'm scared, and I didn't even get the worst of it.
The physical presence of being home and experiencing that is I mean, profound in what you just said. And I'm just thinking for those that aren't going through that themselves, like how has that changed the way you like advocate now? And how can we like communicate that to people who don't have those experiences?
I think honestly, being able to share people's experiences, like whether it's, you know, there have been different people who are posting on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, and they're sharing their experiences. And I think sharing those stories, whether it's like posting their video on, you know, my Instagram story, or, you know, I've talked with different friends from home and I've continued to like share their stories with other people, like whether it's my teammates, my staff, really anybody who, like, I feel like the conversation has come up so much, especially because when I see people, they, you know, I think one of their first things that they want to talk about is Minnesota and what's going on there. And I use that as a chance to share the stories that I've heard and continue to get the word out and let people know, like, it's one, it's not over, and two, it's worse than we're seeing on TV. And so I think, again, like the amplification of the voices on the ground in Minnesota is really important.
I totally agree with you. And I think you've stepped so gracefully into this role of advocacy, and reading some of the other interviews that you've done, that was triggered for you with George Floyd's murder as well. I think a challenge of advocacy, among a million other challenges, but being such a high profile athlete, is this intersection of all these identities. So I'm curious, was there an internal dialogue happening for you about being there as Jordan the citizen versus Jordan the Olympian?
I don't think so. I feel like when I think of myself, like all of those things really like blend together for me. And so I think I was aware, especially like right after the agents kind of like stormed us. I just remember being really aware of like, whoa, like one, I got all that on video, and two, like, thank God that I have a platform where I can share this. Like, I feel like I've become a trusted voice on, you know, with I hate to say like with my audience, but like with the people who follow me. And like, you know, I've shared different stuff, whether it's being goofy or volleyball or, you know, I'm going to the thrift store, whatever. Like, I think I hope people have been able to see my heart as like just an honest, caring human. And so when I share something like this, I hope that they can trust like my voice when I share this as well, and know that like I come from a place of like, this really hurts because it is happening in my hometown. And I think it's important that we all know about what's happening and help out in any way that we can, whether it's just, you know, sharing the message or sharing the story with somebody else. But I think I was definitely aware of like, okay, like I showed up here because like, I think just out of the like desire in my heart to help people and know that like I have this connection as a Minnesotan. But then I think there was like this awareness of like, okay, well, I can definitely use the platform I have to help amplify what's going on and spread the word about it.
That's amazing to hear you say that, because I think when I saw your post on your story, I had that exact reaction, was like, oh my God, this is someone I really trust. And like, she's telling me it's as bad as I think it is. And that was really like motivational for me to engage. And I started donating to like rent support in Minneapolis, to food banks, like however I could from the distance that I am. So if you feel that, there's at least one person, and I bet there's many, many, many more that feel like they do trust you and how you use your platform. After everything that happened, how did you reset, if at all, before competing? I think you competed the next day. Is that right?
I had practice the next day, and then I think like maybe 2 or 3 days after we had a game. And It was so bizarre to go to practice the next day, I think, because obviously that was so fresh on my mind. And I was really thankful because so many of my teammates and staff members checked in on me and asked how I was doing. And like I had so many people messaging as well and just kind of checking in. And so I think it was really nice to know that like I was supported in that moment if I did need to just take a second to like take a breather. And then on the other hand, it was sort of nice to have a little bit of a distraction because I feel like I was so like my mind was so just like on that experience and on like, okay, now how can I help? What can I do? Where can I donate to? How can I spread the word? How can I use my voice? And I just was like, I felt like I was in this thought storm of like, I need to do more. I need to do something. And so volleyball was sort of a nice escape in that sense, or distraction. But I think going into the game, I knew like I wanted to still use that platform to get the word out. And so I wore a thing on my wrist that just said ice out. And then I did have to modify my messaging and say Minnesota strong. But yeah, so I knew that I could still use my platform moving forward. And I think I was really thankful that I had my team and the staff to sort of lean on in that moment because it was overwhelming, I think, mentally and emotionally, but also sort of a nice distraction.
Yeah, I'm glad you have that support within your organization. So, kind of transitioning broadly into carrying emotional weight and being a high level athlete, what does it take to perform at that level and while also carrying that emotional weight?
I think it's definitely a balance. And I feel like the best thing I can say is having a really strong support system to lean on is the biggest tool I think that you can have. And so I've been really thankful for that. And I think I don't want to say like you have to compartmentalize. I think you do to some degree, but at the same time, there's so much power in like feeling the emotions and being able to have that, but also do hard things. And like, okay, I felt this immense like responsibility to show up for my home state and be an advocate for what's going on and for the community there. And at the same time, I know that I have the responsibility of like being there for my team and showing up for them and being present. And so I think the biggest thing for me was like, okay, when I'm with my team, I need to be like 100% present. And that doesn't mean that I can't talk about what's going on in Minnesota, because I think, my teammates would still ask me things or, ask me about like, oh, is your family okay? Like, is everybody safe? And so I think the conversation naturally came up a lot of times too, but I really wanted to channel my emotion to, I guess, use it as a powerful tool, if that makes sense. And so I knew there were going to be people who were maybe upset about me speaking out or didn't agree with what I was saying or thought that I should just shut up and play volleyball. And I wanted to prove that both are possible. You can be an advocate for human rights and also be a really good volleyball player and perform at a high level. And so I think it was important for me to find a balance to be able to do both.
That is just like such a high degree of like emotional management across all of those intersecting experiences, identities. And I've been wanting to ask this question, and I love that Hallie has this on here because we have played together, and like thinking about the emotion and playing with you, very like ecstatic, like hell yeah when we would get a kill. But is that something that you have developed? How has it like progressed as you have gone up in levels of play? Could you kind of speak to just how you have managed that in general in the length of your career?
Yeah. I think honestly, when people ask me about why I started playing volleyball, because I had played basketball since I was young and then transitioned to volleyball, I think the one thing I always say is that I loved it because of the team sport aspect. Like, yes, basketball is a team sport, soccer is a team sport, but like volleyball is the ultimate team sport. You physically cannot do it alone. You have to rely on other people because you can't play the ball 2 times in a row. And so I think this like concept of having to lean on other people and then getting to celebrate other people's accomplishments really excited me and drew me in. And I think I've just always loved to be the biggest cheerleader for my teammates and get people hyped up. And I love seeing my teammates succeed. And it just fires me up. And I just love that about the sport so much. And so I feel like it's only gotten more maybe like intense or aggressive. And so I think, but that's what makes this game so much fun for me to play. Like, even if I'm on the bench, I can still be a part of, like, on national team, we have different cheers that we do for aces or blocks and different stuff. And so, I just love that no matter where I am or what my role is on a team, that's something that I always have. And I can always be the biggest cheerleader and celebrate the loudest. And so I think it's only gotten more intense since I've played in high school.
I love that answer because I wholeheartedly agree. And you couldn't have said it any better. I like just the double hand, like high five, smack down low, or like the big up from a block. Like I remember those days even when we were young. So it's just so fun to like see you continue to do that in such a bigger way. So I love that answer. And I think that has stayed consistent in playing with you and watching you and cheering you on in your career.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's something about like, I don't know, how confidently you exude the range of emotion that seems to be happening for you. So like specifically, so for those listeners that aren't familiar with Love, I really am hoping that people listen to this and they're like start to be invested in Love. The matches are on YouTube. You're literally watching Olympians train. It's an incredible league. But in one of those matches that is online against Atlanta on January 28th, we see you lose a challenge, lose the next point, and then you're in row 3, I think, and then pass is perfect. So obviously the ball is going to you, and you hammer the ball and stare at the R1. So like, I was obsessed with the energy that you're like, not only am I going to side out for my team, but I'm going to stare this woman down. And then you had to go back and serve because it was row 3.
Yeah.
Then you serve a ball and get the overpass and we get a kill. We end up winning in 4 sets. So for those of you that don't know volleyball, you need to watch more volleyball so you can understand what I'm saying. But what I'm getting to is when something intense happens, like a controversial call, things don't go your way all the time in volleyball, what is happening internally those few seconds before that next serve? So for example, you guys are in serve receive and you're about to get that good pass for you to side out. What's going on internally for you?
Yeah, I think I'm just really pissed off. Like, I'm not happy because I thought the call was not the right call. I just feel the emotion of anger, and I'm just like, I feel very, like, I can just feel the aggression building up in me. But I'm like, okay, I still have to be smart and know my task in this moment. And so, you know, before the play starts and I'm waiting for the serve to come over, whatever it may be, like, I'm like, okay, so what is my job in this moment? What do I need to do? What's like the information I need to be remembering as I'm going through this next play? And I think that is definitely the difference between when I was younger and I would get like pissed off in a moment or like upset about something, is how can I channel that energy and still be intentional and dialed in to my task in the moment instead of letting it sort of the moment start to feel really big. And, you know, sometimes I don't know when I started doing this little stare down thing. Like, to the other team sometimes, or apparently to the ref, which I feel really bad about, kind of. So I don't know if I like really condone that, but I did shake her hand after the game and say thank you for reffing us. So I don't know if that counts for anything, but I think, yeah, just being able to stay focused in that moment, because it is, I think if there, it's been a journey. Like when I was younger, I think I probably would have let that like aggression come out in not like a very organized manner, if that makes sense. And now I'm like, I feel like I've figured out how to channel it to the point where other like teams at times will literally say like, just don't piss off JT. Like if you piss JT off, like then we're gonna have a problem. And but I love that, because I'm like, wow, okay, I've actually worked really hard to try to hone this skill of like, when my emotions do feel really big and I am emotionally charged, how can I still stay dialed in and focused on the moment so it doesn't get too big? And I think that is a skill that I've worked on throughout my career. And I feel like I've definitely improved a lot to be able to use it as a strength instead of a weakness.
I mean, for young listeners that are out there and they're going through the same thing, like what would you tell them, or what do you tell yourself to kind of recover and stop making those moments feel so big? Like, how are you channeling that anger?
I think the biggest thing for me is pausing and taking a deep breath and sort of using that as a reset of like, okay, I'm recognizing all that I'm feeling in my body right now, but like I need to still stay focused and, like I said, know my next task and what's in front of me. And I think that deep breath has been really crucial. Also, there are times where I'll feel like maybe it's not even that like I'm really emotionally charged. Maybe I'm playing terribly and I just feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm starting to unravel a little bit. Like I have my mental mantra of like, I have greatness inside of me. And I think that helps. But also for me, contact with my teammates is really huge. So sometimes I'll just tell a teammate, I'm like, can I please hold your hand for a second? And I'll just do a little hand hug. And that is really grounding for me. And so that I'm not feeling like, okay, I'm unraveling, the moment's getting huge, I feel very chaotic. It helps to sort of just bring me back to center and like acknowledge what I'm feeling. And at the same time, know I'm still capable of doing some really great things on the court right now.
Yeah, I'm loving how incredibly attainable some of these tools that you've developed and utilized over your career are. When I watch you play, I think like, oh, there's just something in her that's different than everybody else. But what I hear you telling us is I experienced the grandness and the bigness and the overwhelmingness of the moment just as much as anybody else. And I've had to learn how to cope with that and deal with that. And it's your like desire and dedication to honing it and making it your power and having all these beautiful tools that are lend themselves quite well to how beautiful of a team sport volleyball is. That's just, it's amazing because you are incredible on so many levels, but you're also like showing us that there's things that everybody can take from your game and improve their own game in their own lives. Like, dude, I'm pumped about that.
Powerful
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, seriously. Do you think that advocacy has strengthened your resilience as a competitor in any way?
I think so. I think it's helped me to be confident in my voice. And I think there are times like off the court when maybe I've wanted to speak up about something and I felt nervous because I didn't know how it would come off, or, you know, on the court as a teammate and I've wanted to say something, but I get nervous because I don't know how it's going to come off. And I think being able to speak and advocate for different things and trying to be a really good teammate, I've learned that I can have confidence in my voice, and those around me, like I've built enough trust with those around me and, you know, my teammates and my friends and my family off the court to know that if I do stumble or something doesn't come off quite right, that they can still trust the intent behind it, and I'll have the chance to adjust or tweak maybe and be like, oh wait, that didn't come off how I wanted it to. And I think on the court, there are times where it's really crucial to speak up and say something. And there's always a chance that it might come off a little bit funky, but I know that like I've built a good relationship with my teammates where if I do say something, like there have been times where I've had to go and apologize to teammates and be like, I'm so sorry. Like, I think that came off with a little bit of attitude and I did not mean that at all. Like maybe I was a little emotionally charged or whatever, or like maybe the wording I used. And those conversations are always just like, oh dude, like, I don't care. Like, I know your heart behind it. Like you're just trying to help out and do this or that. And so I think failing or, you know, maybe not getting it quite right or perfect has helped me to know that those things are okay. That might happen. Things might come off a little wonky at times. But people will know your heart behind it and your intention behind things. And you always have the opportunity to tweak something or make a change or apologize if needed. And so I think that's given me confidence to use my voice and not feel like everything I have to say everything I say like has to be perfect. You know, it's okay if I make a mistake. It's okay if maybe I have the wrong information and I come back and I correct what I said and, you know, I apologize or whatever it may be. And if there is something that I feel is important enough to be spoken on, I should do it.
Well, you're speaking so much to the importance of like building relationships with your teammates, which makes teams so great and like brings us back to like why you love volleyball and why you're still playing and it's such an important part in your life. I just think that's really, really beautiful. And I think a lot of people don't take the time, right, to invest in those relationships sometimes, especially when you're starting sport. So I had to reflect that because I loved it. Okay. I'm going to go back to script, Hallie. When you think about like your advocacy work and kind of taking that step to bring it more into your platform and the audience, who did you look up to in making that step? If you had anyone, did you have someone that helped you kind of bridge that gap? What did that look like for you?
That is a great question. I'm trying to think if this might sound kind of dumb, but there's, I don't even remember her last name, but she's like this influencer and her name's Teffy and she's just like really cool. And I remember like just seeing different things that she would speak about on her social media. And she was very just unapologetic she's like, I don't care if I offend maybe like a small group of people because I'm standing up for the rights of others. And the way that she just has whole entire communities just like has their back and she's like, I'm going to use my platform and speak up for you, even if like there's no real maybe like connection to it for herself. Just the way that she really, I think, rides for the communities that like support her. I was just like, hell yeah. Like, I love that. And she's so just like blunt and yeah, like unapologetic with it. And I think that was really inspiring for me to see because she's like, I don't even know what kind of really like influencer you would call her. Like she'll like host little like talk shows, kind of not even talk shows, but I don't know. Like she has like her own podcast and then she'll, you know, go on red carpets and interview people. And so she's very like, she could easily not speak up on things and no one would think twice, you know, but she puts herself out there and is just such an amazing advocate for so many different communities of people who are oppressed or who are just facing so much backlash for simply existing as humans on this planet. And I've loved to see the way that she uses her voice. And I think that's really inspired me and I think helped me to be more, I guess, like courageous in using my voice. Because like I said before, there were times where I feel like I really wanted to speak out on stuff or people would maybe DM me and asked like, well, why aren't you speaking out on this? And I'm like, frick, like I want to, but like, I'm scared. Like, I don't want something to come off wrong. And now I'm just like, just do it. Like they're like, no matter what I say, no matter what I do, I think anybody is going to have an opinion and, not everybody's going to agree, and that's okay. Like, but I know that there's more good being done than harm by me speaking out.
I totally agree. And there was something from the Together X interview that you gave that I was just obsessed with. It was your response to their question of, what do you say in response to people who are like, just play your sport and don't speak out? And you're like, literally, advocacy is what gave women access to sports.
Yes.
So what do you want me to do? And I was like, that is such a good answer, because you're right. Like, that's exactly what even got us to have a platform in the first place. So I think, to your point about being worried about being perfect while you are speaking on things, the inordinate amount of good that you're doing totally covers any backlash. And I can't believe people would DM you and tell you about how to use your platform. That is, that's remarkable, and like a lot of pressure. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. So it sounds like you're in a decently well-established place with how you approach advocacy, how you conceptualize it. But what advice would you give athletes who also feel called to advocate, but feel hesitant, whether that's because they're afraid, they don't know how, or believe that they won't be heard? What would you say to them?
I feel like one of the things that keeps a lot of people from maybe speaking up is feeling like, oh, well, maybe I'm not very well versed in this topic or what exactly is going on. And I feel like there are so many resources out there now to really inform ourselves on things. And whether that's, reading books or listening to podcasts or whatever it may be, there are so many different ways that we can continue to educate ourselves on things so that when the opportunity does present itself for us to use our platform, we feel equipped to do so. And like we have enough knowledge to feel confident in doing that. And so I think that's a really big part of it. And I think the next thing is knowing that advocacy doesn't always have to be like some grand thing, or it doesn't need to feel like this big moment all the time. And I think starting small, whether that's just like the conversations you're having with people, with maybe family or friends who, maybe don't see things from the same perspective, or maybe really have no idea about what's going on in different parts of the world. Those conversations are so important because you are a trusted voice in those people's lives. And I just think there's such a big impact to be had in conversations we view as, it's just a small one-on-one kind of conversation. And then I think knowing that when you do choose to use, whether it's, your platform on social media or posting things on your story or whatever it may be, have confidence in knowing that like when you're advocating for something, it's something that is important to you. And it's an opportunity to support others, to support communities. And I think just having confidence in that. And then, if it is nerve-wracking, maybe having, I think, that support system of like, hey, I'm thinking about posting this on my story. Like, maybe can you help me think through this, or, talk through the wording of it? What do you think? Like, how does this come off? I think having that support system is huge in those moments, to talk it through, maybe before you post or before you have conversations. And then also, if you do face some backlash or people who disagree with you or want to argue with you, like being able to lean on your support system in those moments, because sometimes it can be frustrating when people come off, I don't know, very like abrasive, or they're really upset about you speaking up for human rights, which seems very bizarre, but sometimes happens. And so sometimes you need to vent a little bit to your friends about those things.
In my process of Googling you, I didn't know that you almost had a career-ending injury and had like Tommy John surgery. And then Jess told me before we got on that you actually dislocated both thumbs. Did I get that right, Jess?
Oh, yeah.
In club?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had so many untraditional experiences.
The reason I remember that so vividly, Jordan, is because you were still playing and you had on these like janky braces, and I don't even know how you were blocking or even hitting. And we were playing on the 17s team, and Dave Manka was our coach. And Dave was like, Jessica, you need to step up. Like, you need to start hitting because Jordan's the only one getting kills right now, and we need someone else to help her. and then I just remember feeling this sense of like, oh my God, that's a lot of pressure, Dave, but he's right. Like, I need to support Jordan. And I think we were
Meanwhile,
like,
Jordan's like,
literally
just my club hands.
I don't know how he did that, but
that was so
I will
random.
always remember that. Just know that.
That's so funny.
So clearly, you've had a very untraditional path as an elite athlete. This might feel like a big question, but how did you navigate that path?
It was interesting. I feel like I've definitely had like a very bumpy career, just getting a little bit unlucky with different injuries and whatnot. But I think for me, tearing my UCL in college and having Tommy John surgery and being out for 10 months, that was such a pivotal moment in my career and my mindset and approach to the sport. And I think up until that point, my identity was just like, I am a volleyball player. This is who I am. This is what I bring to the world. And I think as difficult as it was to have a pretty massive, not like massive surgery, but like a pretty, gnarly injury, I was really thankful for that time to reflect and figure out who I am off the court, what my values are and what's important to me and what I want to bring to this world besides, killing a volleyball. And so I think that really set me up for success in the sense of when I did have other random injuries, whether it was, dislocating my thumbs or getting injured in Tokyo, and that ankle injury sort of lingering for about like 10 months. I think being able to fall back on, I am so much more than a volleyball player, and I still hold value in this world, even when I'm not, actively playing with my team or, helping my team win games or being a part of this or that. Like, I still have value, and I'm loved just the same, whether I'm on the court or off the court. And so I think, having different injuries has always been really difficult, but it's also been a really beautiful reminder of who I am at the core as a human. And I think that's just always been a reminder for me.
Just another excellent answer that I can't wait to share with so many athletes that I love in my life. Yeah. What advice would you give other athletes that are maybe also on an untraditional path? I know we talked heavily about injury path, but we did mention, starting your club experience on a twos team and then playing for Cincinnati and really putting Cincinnati on the map and taking them to a Sweet 16 against a juggernaut of a Penn State team or program at the time. So any sort of untraditional path that athletes are navigating, how would you advise them to go forward with that path?
I always like to say there's not just like one direct path to like greatness or to your goals, and there's not like just a single right way to get there. And I think there's so much beauty in knowing that everybody's path is going to look different. There are people who I remember seeing their journeys in volleyball and looking at them and being like, okay, like they're literally so good. Like, that's probably who I'm going to be competing with for a spot on the national team one day in my mid-30s or something. Like, that's genuinely the thought process I had, is like, okay, these are probably the girls I'm looking at them and like looking up to them in a way of like, wow, they do so many good things, and like, how can I take pieces of their game and implement it into mine to like keep getting better? And now I'm like, I'll look back and I'm just like, yes, I think on one hand, it was really cool to have people who were my age that I looked up to because they were doing so many amazing things on the court. But at the same time, I was really just like on my own journey of like, I remember people would say like, oh, you know, you're going to be on the ones team. I made the twos team. I was like, I'm just happy to be here. And then, you know, being at Cincinnati, and my coaches sent me to the USA Open tryout, and I remember people are like, dude, you're going to like be on the national team soon and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you are literally crazy. Like, you're on drugs if you think that. And then getting invited that summer, like going into my senior year, and then thinking, okay, I'm just here like almost as an accident. Like, they just needed like extra bodies in the gym, and then making every single roster that summer, and then making my first Olympic roster. And I just remember like everything came so like in such an untraditional way, or like in a way I thought it never would. And I think just being present on my journey and knowing that like the speed bumps are going to come, and there will be adversity along the way, but how do I weather the storm and stay true to myself and know that my time is going to come at some point. And like, I just feel like I spent so much time like head down, like, how do I get better? How do I make these goals? And like, I would write goals down in college and like tape it in my locker, and I'd look at it before practice, and I'm like, okay, these are the things I want to get better at. And I think having a lot of short-term goals really propelled me forward and helped me reach the bigger goals that I maybe didn't even say out loud for a really long time. Like, I remember it wasn't until I was like deep into my college career that I was like, I want to play on the national team one day. And I don't even think I said at first, like, I want to be an Olympian. I was just like, I want to make it onto the national team. And then that happened, you know, the summer before my senior year, and then feeling like, okay, well, what's next? Like, what, I want to keep chasing things and I want to keep getting better. But I was so locked into the journey. And I think being able to appreciate what your journey looks like for itself, and not, especially nowadays with social media and everybody's posting their highlight reels and everything great that's going on in their life and the glitz and the glam and everything. Like, it's really easy to get caught up and think like, oh, other people are so much further ahead of where I am, and seeing other people's journeys and just being like, you know what, I'm going to stay true to my own journey. And it may look a little bit different, and maybe it looks like it's not a straight path. Maybe it's a little zigzaggy and a little wonky, but that's okay. And there isn't, you know, no two journeys are the same. And I think that's what makes it beautiful, because it's like, I feel like my story can be an inspiration for other girls who maybe didn't go to a volleyball school, and for them to know, oh, like, well, if Jordan was able to play at Cincinnati and still like make it to the national team, then maybe like I don't have to go to, you know, the Penn State, the Pitt, the Wisconsin, or whatever. You know, maybe I can go to a smaller school, and like, it doesn't have to be the same journey as everyone else. And so I think keeping that in mind is really important. And like I said, just staying, like, putting your head down, working, and not getting caught up in the noise of what it should look like is really important.
How did you, I mean, you speak a lot to that pressure, right? That you kind of put on yourself to get where you want to go with the goals. How did you unlearn that in every part of where you played, right? Like starting in club and then going to college, and then like, how did you remind yourself that like, I don't need to do this? How did you unlearn that?
I think I've kind of always gone back to that underdog mentality. And I think that has helped me just to feel like, okay, I'm going to show up in this space. And I don't know if it's like, maybe I'm a little bit, there's like this imposter syndrome that is like almost a win for me. I'm kind of like, hell yeah. But almost like, well, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be here, so no one's really going to expect anything from me. So like, I can just go out and have fun, and whatever happens, and I can, you know, just play free. I feel like I've sort of looked at it in that way, because when I made the national team in 2019, I didn't even think, like, I wasn't aware that like I had earned the right to be there or that like I had actually done enough to earn the right to be there. So I was kind of just like, oh, they're like, maybe they're just being nice. Like, I don't know. So I think that maybe it was a little bit of imposter syndrome, and I kind of, I don't know. I feel like I kind of just use that to my advantage of not really focusing on maybe what I could have thought others would expect of me. I think I always wanted to strive to see how good I could get in the sport, and that's always driven me to keep, I think, like giving it my all. But yeah, I don't know if I've tried to give it much thought of what other people would expect, which I think has been really helpful.
Yeah, it's almost like this underdog in you has just always been there and stays there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of you that seems like really like, I don't know, attached to that part of you because it keeps you in the gym and it keeps you humble and it keeps you working. And now, like, right, at least in the last week, if you watch Love, which everyone should watch Love, you're on a tear, dude. And it's just amazing to see and amazing to hear that humility. And I mean, it's crazy to hear that one of the best players in the world is like, I don't know if I belong here at times, like throughout their career. But I think also it's like we can connect to it. Mm-hmm. Because it had also helped you build, you know, where you are today. It's just absolutely remarkable. As you look ahead, what feels the most important to you about how you use your platform?
I think just staying consistent in speaking up for what I believe is right, and for people who maybe don't have a voice, and figuring out new ways to help communities that are struggling or are being oppressed, and bringing awareness and amplifying voices. I think those are things that I want to be really intentional with. And I think sharing my experience of what happened in Minnesota, and then just trying to be an advocate for those who are being kidnapped and sent away and treated terribly. I think it's been really empowering to see the response from people, like, you know, whether it's just, you know, friends or whoever, like different people have come up to me. Even after games, there have been fans as I'm like signing autographs, and they've been like, thank you so much for using your voice. Like, it really has meant a lot. And I think to know that there is an impact being made has only inspired me to continue using my voice. And I think I'm really blessed to have a platform, and I think the best thing I could do is use it to help others.
Yeah, I don't think I could agree more. And I'm so excited to see like what else comes, obviously, from your volleyball career, but from your fashion career and your thrifting career, and like all these beautiful parts of you. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak to us about our home state and all of these amazing things that I'm so excited to jump into club practice right now and tell all these young women all of these incredibly tangible things that you've shared with us about, you know, being not only an elite athlete, but an elite you. So thank you so much for your time, Jordan. And United fam, we hope that you have enjoyed this time with us as well. Before we wrap up, Jordan, is there anything else that you want to share with our United listeners?
I guess my life motto or my mantra or whatever you want to call it is just to lead with love. And I think the more we do that, the better this world will be. And so that's my last little message.
I love it.
We should name the podcast that. Lead with Love, Jordan Thompson.
Time 44-41, and a touchdown wins it. Snap back to Halinski, drops back, has time, passes left, caught, made at the catchment of the 20-yard line, Morrow to the 10, runs for the win, dives for the pylon. Touchdown, Washington State.